Oktago, Oktago, Oktago no dey waka fast. Her body big like water can. Oktago no husband.
Once upon a time, in a town where the wind carried more gossip than dust, lived a woman named Obianuju. She wasn't born ugly. No. In fact, when she was a little girl, people said she had the softest eyes and the brightest smile in her mother's compound. Her father would lift her high and call her my morning sunshine. But life, as it does, had its storms. Her parents died when she was just 15. Fever. Fast and cruel. With no siblings or cousins to care for her, Obianuju had to learn to survive. She began sewing. First for herself, then for others. Her hands became rough, her back bent early, and food became whatever she could afford, often too much gari and rice, and never enough fruit. By her late 30s, the village no longer saw the bright girl. All they saw was a round, sweaty woman who walked with slow steps and kept to herself. They didn't call her Obianuju anymore. They called her Old Cargo. The name started as a joke from a group of market boys. See her waka, like cargo we DM forget for train. Everyone laughed. It stuck. Even elders used it now. Old Cargo, bring my wrapper tomorrow, they would say, without shame. Mothers warned their daughters, if you don't take care of yourself, you'll become like Old Cargo, alone, unwanted, heavy with no husband. But Obianuju heard every word. She felt every stare. And every night, in her small, hot room, lit by one kerosene lamp and filled with the hum of mosquitoes, she wept into her worn-out pillow. She had dreams too. Once, she dreamed of becoming a fashion designer in the city, owning a shop, wearing perfume, being kissed, being loved. But dreams, she learned, were not for women like her. One day, something inside her snapped. It was the day the mayor's wife came to her shop. The woman, tall and sharp-tongued, dropped a pile of lace on Obianuju's table. "Make it for my party," she said. 3 layers, with gold beads. "And don't ruin it with your dirty fingers." Obianuju nodded quietly. She worked through the night. Her fingers bled from beading. Her eyes stung from lack of sleep. But the gown was perfect, better than anything she had ever made. When the mayor's wife came to collect it, she looked at it, smiled, then turned to Obianuju with disgust. "You have magic hands," she said. "But your face. I would hide it if I were you. Such talent wasted in such a body." She dropped a few dirty notes and walked away. That evening, Obianuju didn't cry. She sat in the dark, listening to the laughter outside her window. She had spent years trying to be kind, to be useful, to be noticed. But kindness did not fix her body. Talent did not bring love. Tears did not bring respect. So she stood, took a worn bag from her cupboard, and packed 3 wrappers, a small mirror, and her mother's old Bible. Then she wrote one sentence on a scrap of brown paper and stuck it to her door. "Gone to find beauty even if I must give everything for it." She didn't say goodbye. She walked toward the forest. Past the farms. Past the last compound. Past the old well. She followed a path many feared. Because deep in the woods, where birds refused to sing, lived a woman people only spoke of in whispers. They called her Mama Dusk. No one knew her real name. They said she used to be a queen, then a witch, then something else, something not quite human anymore. She could make your husband love you again. Or steal someone else's. But her greatest gift. She could give you beauty. Obianuju reached Mama Dusk's clearing at night. The moon was red, the trees didn't sway, and the air smelled of pepper and something older, like bones. Mama Dusk sat on a stool, carving a face into a black calabash. She didn't look up when Obianuju stepped forward. "I've heard of you," Obianuju said, her voice shaking. "I know," Mama Dusk replied calmly. I want to be beautiful, Obianuju said. Mama Dusk finally looked at her. Everyone does, she whispered. But most don't mean it. You mean it. Obianuju nodded. Her eyes were wet, but her voice was firm. I want them to see something different when I walk by. I want them to stop laughing. I want love. Mama Dusk hummed, then reached into a sack and brought out a black gourd, wrapped in cloth the color of dried blood. Drink this before sunrise, she said. You will shine when the sun shines. Men will look at you. Women will envy you. But... She stopped. Obianuju leaned in. But what? There is always a price, Mama Dusk said. You will return to your true form at night. That is when the beauty sleeps. But the real price. She leaned closer, her eyes suddenly dark as a storm. Will come later. And when it comes, no mirror will show you who you truly are. Obianuju's hands trembled, but she took the gourd. I accept. She slept that night in the forest, beside the ashes of old fires and the howl of wolves. And just before dawn, with the sky still grey, she opened the gourd and drank. The sun rose slowly over the forest, and with it, Obianuju opened her eyes. At first, she didn't remember where she was. The forest floor was soft beneath her, the air still cool. Then she looked down at her hands. They were no longer cracked or wrinkled. Her skin, once rough and dark from years of sun and suffering, was now smooth, pale, and glowing like fresh milk. She gasped. She ran to the pond not far from where she slept, and when she saw her face, she dropped to her knees. The mirror of water showed her something she'd never seen before. Cheekbones like a queen, long lashes, bright brown eyes, a pointed nose, soft lips, a small, firm body. She touched her face. It was real. She wasn't Obianuju anymore. She was beautiful. But Mama Dusk's words echoed in her ears. Beauty always has a cost. Still, Obianuju smiled. For the first time in her life, she smiled without shame. She could not go back to her town. Not like this. They wouldn't believe her. They'd ask questions. They might even say she was a witch. So she walked, feet light, heart heavy, until she reached the next town by evening. It was a bigger place with more people and less gossip. Perfect for a stranger. She told them her name was Grace. Nobody asked for her past. Instead, they stared, whispered. Some even offered to help her carry her bag. A man at the guest house gave her a room half price. The next morning, she stood outside wearing a wrapper and a soft smile. A man walked up to her. His name was Stanley, a widower. Tall, brown-skinned, with tired eyes and a quiet voice. He told her she looked like a goddess. She laughed nervously. That evening, he brought her food. The next day, another man came. And then another. Grace, no, Obianuju was not foolish. She knew what they wanted. She had never been wanted before, so their looks made her chest warm and strange. One of the men asked, "Are you married?" She said no. That night, she stood before the mirror in her guest room. The room was small and neat. She had some coins in her bag. The food was good. Her hands were clean. But her reflection began to change. Slowly, her face softened, sagged, spread wide again. Her arms thickened. Her belly returned. The beauty faded with the light. She wept silently. But when morning came again, and she drank from the gourd, the mirror smiled at her once more. She began to build a life there. During the day, she would sit in public places, wearing bright clothes and humming softly. The men came. They gave her gifts. Some paid for her company. One even offered to buy her a small sewing machine, just because she said she liked fabrics. She took the money. She took the attention. She told herself she was earning what the world had always denied her. But every night, she locked her door before sunset. But men still came. Her beauty still held power. Obianuju began to feel two lives growing inside her. One sweet, bright, and soft. The other heavy, hidden, and afraid. But the gourd was getting lighter. The potion inside was almost finished. And Mama Dusk's voice returned to her dreams. When the gourd runs dry, the real price begins. Obianuju stayed in the new town for 6 moons. By day, she was Grace, a beauty with bright eyes and laughter that could stop traffic. Men gave her gifts. Women envied her perfume. Even children smiled when she passed. But by night, she returned to her old skin. She hid it well. No one ever saw. And every morning before dawn, she drank carefully from the black gourd Mama Dusk gave her. She never spilled a drop. But now the gourd was almost empty. The sweet-smelling potion inside had turned thicker. Slower. Fewer sips left. One morning, she looked at herself in the mirror and said, "This beauty is not enough. They must see it. They must know what they lost." She was thinking about home. The town where they mocked her. Where children sang old cargo and women spat beside her feet. She hadn't forgotten. She thought she had moved on, but revenge has a way of creeping in when no one is watching. It starts as a whisper. Then it grows teeth. Obianuju began to save every coin the men gave her. She stopped buying fried fish. She stopped paying for the guest house. Instead, she moved to a small hut near the bush and told people she was going away soon. When she had enough money tied in a wrapper and buried in her bag, she waited until the last drop of potion. Then, just before sunrise, she took a different road. The long road. The one that led back into the forest. Back to Mama Dusk. It had been months since she last saw the strange woman. She expected the place to look different, but it didn't. Same dead tree. Same circle of broken mirrors. Same heavy silence. Mama Dusk was sitting there like she had never moved. "I told you beauty has a cost," Mama Dusk said, without looking up. Obianuju stepped forward. "I came to pay." Mama Dusk raised her eyes, slow like a snake. "I want more potion," Obianuju said. "And this time, I want it to last longer." The old woman laughed softly. "You tasted sugar, and now you want the whole tree. Fine. But this time, the price will not be time. It will be truth." Obianuju frowned. "What does that mean?" "You will see," Mama Dusk said. "You always do, eventually." She pulled out another gourd, this one bigger, heavier. Wrapped in dark green cloth. Obianuju dropped her bundle of money. "Is that enough?" Mama Dusk didn't count it. She just nodded. "You can now drink once a week," she said. "1 sip. 1 full week of beauty. But the longer you use it, the more the mirror will hate you." Obianuju didn't care. She collected the gourd with trembling hands and left. By the next day, she was standing outside her old town. She wore new clothes, silky wrapper, golden earrings, bangles that chimed when she moved. Her face. Flawless. Her walk. Light like a feather. No one knew it was her. And that was the plan. She entered the market. The women who once called her old cargo turned their necks to get a better look. Who is she? She must be from the city. Look at her skin, her waist, her nails. Even the mayor's wife, yes, the same woman who insulted her, stared in silence. Obianuju smiled inside. She rented a fine room in the middle of town. She didn't use her real name. She told everyone she was a fashion teacher from the East, here to train young ladies in beauty and elegance. They believed her. They lined up at her door. The same people who once mocked her now begged her for beauty tips, clothes, creams, and charm. And slowly, she began to play. She started inviting the worst ones, the ones who laughed the loudest back then, to tea. She watched them stammer and flatter her, not knowing who she truly was. But in the mirror, each night, she saw something change. Her smile looked strange. Her eyes sometimes blinked on their own. And once, just once, her reflection didn't follow her movement. She shook it off. She had come to show them all. She had come to make them bow. And she was just getting started. The town knew nothing yet. They only saw a rich, sweet-smelling stranger. They saw gold bangles, perfect skin, expensive fabrics. They saw a woman who had everything. But they didn't see Obianuju. She was buried deep inside, angry, sharp, remembering everything. They didn't know this woman had once washed their dirty clothes for 50 Nigerian nairas. They didn't know she had once slept hungry, listening to their children laugh outside her window. But she knew them. And now, it was time. Obianuju made a list. At the top were 3 men. Men who once stood in the beer parlor and made fun of her body like it was a broken drum. Men who laughed, saying they'd rather sleep with a goat than touch her. Now, they couldn't get enough of her. They called her Madam Kai. They licked their lips like hungry dogs. She let them come. One by one. She welcomed them with soft music and wine in glasses. She wore red silk. Her wrapper hugged her new waist. They thought they were in heaven. But she was counting. She made them pay money before anything, 50,000 upfront. One man, Uche, sold his phone and begged her not to cancel their night. She smiled and rubbed his chin. She gave him the best night of his life. Then she gave him something else. A gift bag with Madam Kai written in gold. Inside, a pair of used female panties, cut into tiny pieces. And a card that said, "From old cargo. Goat now has taste, huh?" Uche fainted in his compound. Another one, Ikenna, was married. He snuck out to visit her at night. She made him sweat, moan, cry. Then she whispered, "Next time you call a woman fat, remember how fast you removed her wrapper." When he returned home, she had sent his wife a letter. And pictures. By morning, Ikenna's clothes were outside. His shame. Viral. The last one, Chika, had once said, "Even Satan go reject that woman body." So she gave him the devil. That night, she mixed herbs from Mama Dusk into his palm wine. By midnight, he started scratching. His eyes went red. He couldn't sleep for 3 days. He screamed that something was chasing him. His friends locked him in a room. Till today, he still shakes when he sees red wrappers. She invited the market women for a ladies-only event. They came dressed like queens. Hairnets. Makeup. Head ties that reached the sky. Inside her sitting room, she had prepared food, pepper soup, small chops, fried chicken. She served them with love. Then she stood up to give a speech. "I am honored," she said, "to host the same women who once called me a bag of beans, a heap of leftover yam, a cow with no man." The room went still. One woman dropped her spoon. Another blinked and whispered, "Wait. I remember," she continued. "You," she pointed at Mama Abia, "once told your daughter never to grow up and look like me." She pointed again. "You, Auntie Grace, used to hold your nose when I passed. Said I smelled like forgotten soup." They all stared at her, mouths wide. "I was old cargo," she said. "Now, I carry your pride." She opened a curtain behind her. And there were pictures, old ones she had kept of herself, and each of them gossiping, laughing at her in the past. Even recordings. They screamed. But she wasn't done. Later that evening, their faces began to swell. Not because of food poisoning, no. She had added mirror roots from Mama Dusk to their soup. It made your skin swell and your eyes turn red, but only when you look in a mirror. By morning, They couldn't leave their houses. One of them, Mama Abia, tried to go to the pharmacy. Her reflection in a car window made her scream and run into a gutter. The children had always been the cruelest. Tiny mouths. Sharp tongues. They used to follow her singing. Old cargo no day waka fast. Her body big like water tank. No husband, no baby, just rice and fat. Now, she made sweet rice. Hot, yellow jollof with beef stew. She walked to their school compound during lunch break and said, "Auntie Kai loves children. Have some rice, my babies." They rushed. They devoured the food like hungry lions. But what they didn't know, she had added something called bitter root oil, another gift from Mama Dusk. It doesn't kill, but it makes your stomach rumble like thunder. It makes your mouth dry like paper. It makes you cry without knowing why. That night, 13 children were crying, rolling, screaming, "Mummy, my bell." The doctor said, "It's not food poison. Their bellies are just angry." She watched from her window, sipping juice. Payback never tasted so sweet. One evening, Madame Kai stood in front of her mirror, humming. Her wrapper clung to her glowing skin. She felt powerful, beautiful, untouchable, until her reflection blinked, but she didn't. She tilted her head. The reflection stayed still. Then it spoke. "You've poured the pepper, but the fire is coming back to burn you." She stepped away. Her throat tightened. "No," she said. "I paid. I suffered. I gave everything." But the mirror began to melt. And behind it was not her face. It was her real face. The forgotten one. The one they called ugly. The one she buried. The morning was quiet. Too quiet. Madame Kai stood by her mirror, holding the gourd with steady hands. It was her weekly ritual now. One careful sip before the sun hit her door. One sip, and the world would once again fall to her feet. But today, something was wrong. The gourd felt heavy, as if the potion inside had thickened into tar. The smell, once sweet and floral, now carried a bitter edge. It stung her nose. Still, she drank. And this time it burned. The liquid scraped her throat like firewood smoke. She coughed and leaned over, gripping her table. Her eyes watered. Her skin tingled. She stumbled toward the mirror, expecting the familiar glow, the lovely skin, the waistline she had come to love. Instead, she saw cracks. Tiny ones. Just beneath her left eye. Her cheekbones still looked sharp, but now they twitched slightly on their own. Her lips, once full, looked stretched too wide. She blinked, and for a brief second, one eye closed slower than the other. Her heart raced. "No," she whispered. "Not now. Not today." She rubbed cream on her face, fast. Tied her wrapper tighter. Put gold earrings in her ears and covered her head with a silk scarf. But deep down, she knew. Something was beginning to change. Outside, the sun was rising, and the market was already filling with voices. Children running, women laughing, sellers shouting prices. The world still expected Madame Kai to show up flawless. So she did. She walked through the market, head high. The same path where they once called her old cargo. She forced her smile. She greeted softly. But as she passed by a group of children, one little girl paused, stared, and tugged her mother's wrapper. "Mummy," she whispered, "why is that fine lady's eye shaking like a lizard?" The mother hushed her, smiling nervously at Madame Kai. She smiled back, but inside her ears, the whisper echoed louder than thunder. She rushed home. In her room, she locked the door, bolted the window, closed the curtains. She faced the mirror. This time, the mirror was fogged up from the inside. She wiped it with her palm. But no matter how much she wiped, It stayed cloudy. Then a word appeared on the glass. Det. Her breath caught. She stepped back. And behind the fog, she saw herself. But not the beautiful self. Not the old one either. She saw something else. A twisted version of her. Her lips sewn shut. Her hands shaking like dry leaves. Her eyes blank and watching. And the reflection spoke. You wore beauty like a wrapper, now the threads are coming loose. She threw the gourd to the floor. It rolled under the bed and leaked slowly onto the wooden floorboards. She sat in the corner, shaking, whispering, "No, I still have time. I can fix this. I just need one more chance." But the room felt colder now. And the sewing machine in the corner, it began to click on its own. The sewing machine began to click on its own. Slow, rhythmic, as if an unseen hand was pushing the pedal, feeding fabric into nothingness. Madame Kai froze in the corner, eyes wide, lips trembling. The clicking grew louder, faster. Click, 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 click. Then, silence, dead silence. She tried to scream, but no sound came. She clutched her throat, her hands, her face. And she collapsed. No light. No fire. No thunder. Just the soft thud of her body hitting the wooden floor, and the slow drip of potion soaking into the cracks. Hours passed. Nobody saw her leave the house. Nobody heard her cry. But by midday, a strange smell floated from her window. Neighbors whispered. Children said they heard her sewing machine running all day, even though the door was locked. Then came the flies. The neighbors finally gathered. They knocked. No answer. They called her name, Madame Kai. Still, nothing. So they broke down the door. And what they saw, they never spoke of it clearly. Inside the room, the curtains blew gently though the windows were shut. Her wrapper, her famous red wrapper, lay folded neatly on the bed. Her shoes by the mirror. The gourd was gone. The sewing machine had thread running through it, but no cloth. Just air. And Obianuju? Gone. No body. No blood. No note. Just the sound of thread slowly snapping on the floor. One woman fainted. Another ran out screaming, "She is dead, oh." A child later said they saw a woman walking into the forest at dawn, barefoot, her face half beautiful, half melting. But no one ever confirmed it. To this day, no one knows what happened to the woman they once called Old Cargo. Her room is still locked. But villagers say, if you pass by her window at midnight, you'll hear the sewing machine again. Click, click, click. And a voice whispering, "Mock no one, for you don't know the harm you're stitching." Everyone deserves respect, no matter their size, shape, or appearance. Bullying and body shaming can leave scars deeper than we know. Let's be kind with our words. And if you've ever been judged for how you look, remember, your worth isn't in your waistline. Stand tall. You are enough. If this story moved you, hit the like button, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Drop a comment below. Have you ever been body shamed? How did you rise above it? Let's talk about it. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss powerful stories like this.